And I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee all the youth and educational programs here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we're glad that you guys could tune in for our Heart of the Hall of Famers series featuring Hall of Famer Joe DeLamielleure. And we're really excited about this series that we started last year because it gives you guys, the students, the opportunity to find out what it took to get in the Hall of Fame beyond just the athletics. Dive into the character that it took, because most of our Hall of Famers, it can be said that if their God-given ability didn't lie in pro football, that they would have excelled in some other life endeavor. And many of them have, beyond their professional careers, gone on to great careers, volunteerism, all kinds of different things. As you'll hear, Mr. DeLamielleure's got a pretty impressive resume off the field as well as on the field. So we are pleased to have you guys all tune in here today. We've got students from all across the country. And without great teammates, we'll say, because obviously we're talking football, this program would not be possible. We first and foremost need to thank our friends at Cisco and Michael Purcell and the folks there. They helped set this up in Charlotte, North Carolina to host Mr. DeLamielleure. And then also our friends at Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District, Brent Hardis and some of the other guys that are behind the scenes making these connections possible, not only with Joe's system in front of him, but now they have another school that's connected, Corcoran, that we'll be hearing from here in a little bit. So I want to thank all of you for doing that. And then last but definitely not least, the ones that make it possible every week or every couple weeks when we do these programs, our friends at eTech Ohio that serve the entire state of Ohio, Josh and Derek and Jason and those folks there. They're the ones that put this connection together for us. So I want to thank you for your support. It wouldn't be possible. We also have to thank the teachers, not only the teachers, but the coordinators of the video conferencing programs, the tech coordinators, all the folks that are involved. Every connection usually has 3 to 4 different individuals involved with each school. So I want to thank you for your time and efforts in making this possible. And then last but definitely not least, we need to thank the students, because without them and their preparation and their hard work at doing this program, and some of them are even, Mr. DeLamielleure, they even have food. One of them is doing a tailgate right after they do this program. So they're going all out for this program with you guys, our friends there in Abilene, Texas. So without you guys' help, this program doesn't happen. So thank you to the students. With that being said, what I would like to do at this time is I'm going to call upon your school, and what you can do is feel free to give a shout out, show some school spirit, make some noise for your school, just so Mr. DeLamielleure can see where you guys are at, and also the other schools that are tuned in, they can all see where they're at. So we'll start off at Bennett High School, Bennett, Buffalo, New York.
That's a good place.
Okay, thank you, Bennett. And let's go back to Charlotte, to Corcoran. Are you guys there? Give a shout out.
Where was that?
Thank you, Corcoran. That's in Charlotte. And then let's go to the tailgaters, Abilene, Texas. Abilene. I know they are pumped. They are enthused. I think the teacher told me 3 or 4 times. I think they were 2009 state football champions, if I'm not mistaken. I think there at Abilene. So there we go. I remember that. So thank you, Abilene. Let's go to Aspermont. If we can hear a shout out from you guys. Woo! Beautiful big auditorium there. Thank you, Aspermont. I'm glad to see myself on the big screen there with you guys. And then, and actually, that's it. I think Fredonia, you're tuned in as a view only. Fredonia, are you there? In Kansas? Okay, that's fine. We'll come back to you guys in just a minute. But what I'd like to do now at this time is give a brief introduction into Mr. DeLamielleure, both on the field and off the field. And first of all, Joe DeLamielleure from the class of 2003 was born March 16, 1951 in Detroit, Michigan. He was selected by the Bills in the first round in the 1973 draft. He was an All-America at Michigan State. He won all rookie honors. He was durable. He played in 185 consecutive games. He anchored the Bills' famed line, the Electric Company, best known as he was the anchor that unleashed the first 2,000-yard rusher in the NFL history, a guy by the name of O.J. Simpson. Many of you probably know his name, but most of you know the name Chris Johnson, who did it a couple years ago. Well, Joe is the anchor of that line that did it the first time in NFL history back in 1973. He was selected to All-Pro and All-AFC from 1975 through 1980. He was named to 6 Pro Bowls as well as named to the NFL's 1970s All-Decade Team. And obviously, he received the pinnacle award that you can receive as an individual player, and that's being enshrined here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was bestowed that honor back in 2003. Now, that's on-the-field stuff, but I think what you'll find is his off-the-field achievements are as remarkable, if not more remarkable, because of if there's something that defines Joe, it's selfless and humble, and I think you'll see that and hear that today from him. But let me give you a little stuff about what he's doing now. He currently spends his time trying to assist many charities. In the spring of 2009, get this, he and two of his college roommates biked from Michigan State, which is in Lansing, Michigan, all the way to Matamoros, Mexico, to help raise funds for the City of Children Orphanage that was founded by a good friend of his and a roommate at the Michigan State University, John Shinsky. Also, he volunteers with Allegro, which is a foundation for handicapped children, which most recently he played in a golf tournament to benefit that charity. He will be participating in the Polar Plunge in Lake Erie to raise money for the Special Olympics. He has also held the first annual Joe D. March of Dimes golf tournament that raised $70,000. In the future, he's hoping to raise enough money to climb, now get this, climb Mount Kilimanjaro to benefit the wounded warriors. In addition, he uses his time to advocate for the retired players for their increased pensions, as well as he also works with his son. Oh, we'll have you guys mute your mics there. Thank you. Joe also works with his son using Joe D exercise bands to teach classes and help people improve their overall fitness, strength, speed, and agility. So I think you'll find he's someone that's very giving of his time. Obviously, his fame and notoriety from the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a platform to help him help people, which is just amazing. I think you'll find that with a lot of Hall of Famers use the Hall of Fame as a platform to do that. So before I go into asking Mr. DeLamielleure with his opening remarks, I'd like to show you guys a quick video of his playing career.
DeLamielleure was the anchor of two all-time great offensive lines. The electric company in Buffalo turned on the juice, running back O.J. Simpson. Joe also led an offensive line in Cleveland that blocked for NFL MVP Brian Sipe and 1,000-yard rusher Mike Pruitt. DeLamielleure would never miss a single game in his entire NFL career, one that was filled with personal awards. An 8-time All-Pro, he played in 6 Pro Bowls and was named the Offensive Lineman of the Year in 1975.
All right, if all the schools, if you can unmute your mics for a second and join me in giving a warm round of applause to Class of 2003 enshrinee, Joe DeLamielleure.
Thank you. Now they're going to mute him. Thank you. This is my second session for today, so I may sound like I'm repeating myself, but it'll only be to me that I'm repeating myself. You guys haven't heard it. But I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be able to share some of my thoughts with you guys and some of my experiences through life. 1975, I came in 1973. That seems like forever ago when I hear it in years. I've tried to put it in relationship to when I was 22. That'd be somebody saying in 1973, I'm listening to a guy who played in 1935. So I'm going to try to relate to you guys as I have a lot of children and grandchildren, so I coached in high school for 7 years and college for 5. So I've been around young people my whole life. So I think I can do a good job of doing that. But I think the best part of any of these programs is have a question and answer. So we'll just start with that. Let's go into question and answer real quick, and then I'll try to answer the question and get as many questions and answers as I can. So here we go, Jerry.
Okay, thank you, Joe. And the order that we're going to go is Bennett High School, we'll go to Corcoran, Abilene, and then Aspermont. That'll be the order of the questions. But before we do that, and I know you guys have all submitted your questions in advance, and some great questions to be asked throughout it, but I encourage you guys to select those that are very thought-provoking. And Joe's a very open, honest, candid person. He's one of those guys, what you see is what you get, and he's very open about himself and things. So I encourage you to ask those character-related questions that I'm sure that he will honestly share with you about. So this is your opportunity. if you think about this is your opportunity to speak with one of the greatest football players that has ever played in the NFL. One of the greatest. There's only 267 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and out of that, only 220 players out of 21,000 players that have played in the NFL. So this is an once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to talk with one of the very best. And it wasn't just his skill that made him the best. What made him great on the field, off the field, with his family, with his kids, his 9 kids and everything, and all that he's helped raise, is his character. So I encourage you to ask those character-related questions for this program. So with that being said, if we'll start off Bennett High School, we'll go 2 questions each round, then we'll keep rotating through. So go ahead, Bennett.
Okay, we're all set, Jerry. Here's question number 1.
Did he enjoy playing for the Buffalo Bills when he played for them?
Did Joe, go ahead. Get up there.
Did Joe enjoy playing for the Buffalo Bills when he played for the Bills?
Did I enjoy playing for the Bills? I loved it. It was the best. I've been to Bennett High School, actually, too. I got to tell you guys, I coached at Duke, and I recruited about 4 or 5 kids, 2 from West Charlotte, and 1 from Clarence, and 1 from Sweet Home. And they all went to Duke. But I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed playing in Buffalo. Buffalo is an unusual place. I'm from Detroit. Buffalo, Detroit, and Cleveland are very similar. And it's blue-collar towns, tough people, and they love their sports. I'm a big Tiger fan. I grew up in Detroit, so I'm a Tiger and Lion fan as well as a Buffalo Bill, Cleveland Brown fan. So Bills have a big one this weekend, but I enjoyed every minute of it. And this is a big game for them against Philadelphia. I'll be up there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys heard. I shared it with the last group, but I don't remember if I shared it with this group. As soon as he gets done with this broadcast, he and I believe, is Jerry going to go as well, Joe?
No, just okay. I'm going.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
So.
He'll drive from Charlotte, North Carolina. He'll be up your way there, Buffalo, Bennett, as he'll be attending the game. So, Bennett, go with your second question.
All right, here's our second question, Jerry.
Hi, Joe. I was. You gonna go ahead? I was in Buffalo 1978. I was there at Rich Stadium to watch a game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. But could you give some advice to the students here, forgetting about football and the sports for a moment, as far as the seniors here and the juniors embarking on a career after school, educationally? Any advice? I know you go as far as with your golf tournaments and all these other things you do. Would you give some advice to some of the students here as far as away from football and maybe some career advice?
Yeah, actually, a couple things. And I think, is Bennett, do you do a lot of industrial arts and things like that? Are you guys into that? I got to ask you that question.
No, we don't.
Okay.
No, we don't.
Well, one of my sons, who really wasn't, he was a Korean boy I adopted, and he really wasn't a great student, but he could get by, but he was gifted in other things. He could draw. He's great with his mechanical things. He went to the school, and I think you guys should write this down. It's called the Apprentice School. It's in Newport News, Virginia, or Newport Beach, Virginia Beach. And what they do is they build aircraft carriers. And as you graduate from high school, you can go right to there. They have football, basketball, and baseball there, wrestling also. It's called the Apprentice School. But guess what, guys? You get paid to go to school. They pay you. You're an apprentice. They teach you a trade. There's 10 different trades on the ship. And I think it'd be well worth your while to look it up on the internet. And my son went there. He's now 28, but when he went there, struggled through school. Just had a hard time. We got him when he was 5 or 6. And he had a tough time with English as a second language, all this stuff. Anyhow, now he's a welder. He's making $75,000 a year. And when he went to school there, his first year he made 21, then 24, then 28 and 30. His 4 years. While he was going to school, they paid him, and he learned to trade. So you might want to look at that. That's one thing. Another thing is everybody's got gifts, whatever they may be. You might be an artist, might be a singer, you might be, good at math. Who knows? Find your niche. Try to find your niche. Do the best you can at it, and look up all the references you can to try to get to where you want to go. And that'd be my advice to you. But I'm the only one to go to college in my family. I'm the 9th of 10 kids. And my dad went to 3rd grade. My mother went to 8th grade. So you can do it. You can make it if you just put your mind to it. But you need a lot of help. You gotta get guidance from your teachers.
Okay, thank you, Bennett, and we'll get back to you guys here shortly. If you can go ahead and mute your mics, we'll go to right there in Charlotte where Joe is. Let's go to Corcoran. You guys got a couple questions? Go ahead.
Hi.
Hello.
I just wanted to ask, what is his biggest life lesson and how did he learn it?
The biggest life lesson I have, I'm looking at these pillars, and I talked about this. The other thing is, I was taught very early in life, because I'm one of 10 kids, pecking order. You guys raise your hand if you heard of pecking order. Pecking order is like, yeah, you guys know what it is. It's where you stand in a family or in a group or in a school or whatever, and then you have respect for that. There's a pecking order in everything, on a football team, on work, whatever. You earn your respect, and you move up that pecking order by getting the respect of the people who you're working with. So that's one of the lessons I learned. To me, if I look at anything I've learned through life, is there's a pecking order in the Hall of Fame. If you're a Hall of Fame player, my name is Joe DeLamielleure. Very few people heard of me, but I'll guarantee you a lot of people have heard of Deion Sanders or the more current guys, whoever that may be, Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, people like that. So to me, everybody say, hey, you're in the Hall of Fame. But I have a different respect for the guys who are more well-known, and that's just me. For whatever reason, that's how I grew up, and I understand, like, they say, hey, some guys are getting a speaking engagement for $5,000 or $6,000. Don't you think you should get that? Not really. I don't, because not that many people. You people are here in Charlotte. I'm in the Hall of Fame. You never heard of me. I'm just a regular citizen who walks around here. But if I was in Buffalo like Bennett, those kids may have heard of me. So I think if you understand pecking order and you don't think you're bigger than you are, and you have respect for people, I think that's a good lesson in life to learn. Respect.
And I think you guys will hear throughout this program that those 6 pillars, especially respect, will be reiterated throughout: the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. So, and I know from last session that Joe is very big on respect, and you guys will hear that throughout. So go ahead with your next one, Corcoran.
Thank you. Did you have something that you fell back on in case football did not work out?
Did I have things like a backup plan if they didn't work?
Yeah.
Actually, I did, because when I went to Michigan State, that's where I went to college. Since I keep saying I'm the 9th of 10 children, no one had graduated in front of me. In fact, nobody even went to college. So my goal when I went to Michigan State was not, people don't believe this, it was not to make the varsity football team. That was not my number one goal. My number one goal was to graduate from college. And my 4 brothers above me, they made sure they got my grades before my parents got them. When they'd mail our grades back then, they didn't have internet. And they made sure I was doing good so I could graduate. And I graduated in 4 years, which was an accomplishment because I played all 4 years of sports. I mean, I graduated right on time with the rest of the students, and I didn't have to go back an extra term or anything. My goal was to graduate on time, and I did. And really, that's the biggest thing that of all my accomplishments, graduating from Michigan State in 4 years is on the top of the list. Because I'm not a great student. I mean, I didn't even like school, but I had to learn to like it.
Okay, thank you, Corcoran. And let's go to our tailgating friends in Texas, Abilene.
Hello. Who was the greatest inspiration in your life?
My mom and my dad, to tell you the truth. Those were my first greatest inspirations. My dad went to 3rd grade. We had a business in Detroit. We ran a bar. It was open 7 in the morning, 2:30 at night, 7 days a week, closed Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Easter. And just our family, my mom and dad ran that bar, and it's still there today. Now my nephews and nieces run it, but no one in my family drinks. It's amazing. We own a bar, no one drinks. No one in my wife's family drinks. And I don't know, maybe it's because I cleaned up the bar at 2:30 at night when I was going through school. When I got in 7th grade, my dad said, okay, now you can go to work. What do you mean, Dad? You're going to go with your brothers at 2:30 at night and clean the bar and come back here at 5:30, wake me up, get a couple hours sleep, and go to school. And that's how I grew up. And it was the best. I had the best childhood of anyone I could ever imagine because I learned how to work. I said this at my Hall of Fame speech. My dad taught me how to work. My mother taught us teamwork. 10 kids, 1 bathroom, no lock. That's teamwork. We let the girls go first, then we fight our way into the bathroom. But I don't know if too many people can imagine living in 1 bathroom with no shower, just a tub. And that's how I grew up, and I loved it. And all my brothers and sisters loved it. But my backup plan, was this my backup plan? What was the first question? Oh, my inspiration is my mom and dad, and then teachers, coaches. The 6th grade teacher, Mr. Mosier, I can tell you, right. My high school coach, Al Baumgart. My college coach was great. His name was Duffy Doherty. He was famous. The biggest thing I ever took from him, he said, it takes 3 bones to play football. 3 bones. I go, 3 bones. A backbone, a wishbone, and the most important bone you have, a funny bone. And I live by that. You have to have guts to stand up for something. You got to wish for better things to come, and then you got to have a sense of humor when you get them or you don't get them. A backbone, a wishbone, and a funny bone. And I live by that. That's my life. And then I had 2 great coaches in college, pro football, Sam Martigliano and Lou Saban. So the coaches and teachers have always been a big influence on my life. And I think if you guys, the students, look back, you're going to find the same thing. Biggest influence in your life is going to be a teacher or a coach that you know, besides your parents.
And Abilene, I think that was your first question. Go ahead. You got another one?
How do you feel sports help to bring out the 6 pillars of character in people?
I didn't hear the end of it. Would sports bring out what? Oh, the 6 pillars. The 6 pillars? Well, I talked about this in the other one. I think the 6 pillars, I put respect in number 1, and then the rest of it falls into line. That's how I feel about trustworthiness, and I can't see with my glasses. I'm looking at my little notes here. If you go over them, I know it's citizenship, caring, all those things. If you have respect, then all those things just fall into order. That's how I feel about the 6 pillars. And you guys got them written down there. I'm not quite as smart as you, or I can't see as good, because I can only see about 5 of them that I wrote down before this. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
And Joe, what do you think football taught you about respect?
Football, that there's respect is one thing you learn in sports, all sports, is somebody's better than you and somebody's not quite as good as you, and you learn to respect both of them. And I said this in the last thing. I know a lot of people watch ESPN all the time with this guy Rex Ryan, and I think he gets himself in trouble because he doesn't respect his opponents like he should. That's my opinion. He talks like they've already arrived. Like the New York Jets, they're the greatest team. The same thing's going through with the Eagles, but the Eagles don't have Andy Reid come up there and tell you how great they are. Rex Reid is getting up there how great they are. They haven't accomplished anything. And I think the guys in the league resent that. And I think that's why everybody, when the Jets come up and play them, they got a bullseye on them that the rest of the league wants to see how good they are and see if they really just talking trash, which it looks like they are right now. They're 1-3.
Thank you, Abilene. Let's stay in the state of Texas and ask Vermont.
What do you attribute to your success in football?
Football is just a game, and that's just if I'm looking at football, I did a lot of things like I trained all the time. Like even when I was a little kid, like 5th, 6th grade, I'd be jumping rope for 20 or 30 minutes. And that's a long time. Then I go run, I do this. I just enjoyed doing sports. Football, basketball, baseball, whatever the sport, I played it at that season. And what made me be good in sports is I played it all the time. It wasn't, and I do mean play, I didn't work it. I hate when people say, oh, you worked so hard, or I worked so hard to be an athlete. No, you didn't. You played very long, or very, very many hours. That's not work. they don't say, let's go work football or let's go work baseball. I'm going to go work basketball. No, I'm going to play. And I played a lot. And I played a lot when I was a kid. I had 4 older brothers who taught me from 2 or 3 years old how to be tough. I never was on any of their teams that they'd pick up teams. I never once was on one of their teams so they could beat me up when I was on the opposition. So my brothers taught me how to take a hit, take a lot of the best shots, and they made me be a tough guy.
Go ahead, Aspermont.
What motivated you to overcome health issues such as your heart problems?
Well, I had a heart problem, but I never even really had a heart problem. I never took an EKG test. They just put a stethoscope on my heart. You know, this is back in the 60s and 70s. So when I got drafted by the Bills, they said, oh, you got to go get an EKG. I took the EKG, and they said, you got an inverted T wave, which is represents a clogged artery or something. They said, you can't even play football. I didn't feel any different. Man, I can't believe this. So they sent me to Cleveland Clinic, and the Cleveland Clinic gave me a cardiac cath when I was 22 years old, where they shoot that. Then you got to realize this is 1973, and I'm 22 years old. And the doctor who gave me the physical, before he even did the catheterization, he said, I can tell you there's nothing wrong with you. They made a misdiagnosis. And that, for the rest of my life, is kind of made me leery of medical people. I always get a second opinion no matter what. And that's what happened. My wife's a registered nurse. She's a pediatric nurse. And even she, we were married then, even we don't take one answer when it comes to medical. And so I didn't overcome anything, actually. The question was, I didn't have a problem in the first place. And then I never missed a game or a practice my whole career. God has smiled on me. Had a little angel sitting on my shoulder all the time.
And Joe, what advice would you give these students when we talk about obstacles, whether it's health issues, whether it's a defensive end, or like a Deacon Jones or a Joe Green, or whether it's a tough test that you have coming up?
Yeah.
What do you think you go through the obstacles, around the? I mean, what's your philosophy on dealing with those?
My theory on this stuff is, and I tell my kids all the time, it isn't really an obstacle. Let's say you're not a real good student, but the teacher tells you, okay, you're going to have a spelling test of 10 hard words, and it's going to be on Friday. If you started studying on Monday, every single day, for, you spelled those words out, say 10 times each day from Monday till Friday, would you be worried on Friday about flunking that test? No way. But if you didn't study at all and you said, I'm gonna look at these words before I go in and take the test, you're nervous, you're sweating, you're not going to do well because you're not prepared. And I did the same thing was with football. If I was playing against a guy like Joe Green or Merlin Olsen or something, or Willie Lanier, all these great Hall of Famers, I'd watch the film till my eyes would water. I would know them inside out. And then I'd go into the game. I'd have 5 days or 6 days to prepare for that. Then I go prepare. I was ready for it. As long as you're getting ready for whatever your opponent may be, then you'll do well. And basically just doing the best you can. That's what it comes down to. If you do the best you can, you fail, you've still done the best you can. And then it's nothing to worry about. You're not going to succeed at everything.
Thank you, and thank you, Aspermont. We'll get back to you. Looks like we're going to get through another round. We'll go to 2 questions each group again. Let's go back to Bennett High School in Buffalo.
Okay, we're here, Jerry. Okay, we got one more question. What was the best part about playing in the NFL?
What did you say? What was the best what? Best part about playing in the NFL? The best part to me, no doubt, was you didn't have to dress up to go to work. I mean, you're going to practice. So I see all these guys back in the 60s or 70s and 80s. All my neighbors are driving to work. They got a tie, nice shirt, or whatever, or they're electrical plumbers. They all had uniforms. I go there with a T-shirt, don't even have to shave, can have flip-flops on, and I'm going to work. Are you kidding me? This is the greatest job in the world. And when you say the NFL and you say hard work, it's hard play. I've said this 1,000 times in my life. I never worked hard once in my life playing the sport. I played hard. and that's it. And I enjoyed football to death because you practice for 5 or 6 days, and then in 3 hours you find out if you won or you lost. There's no middle ground. Believe me, when the Buffalo Bills when they lose a game, that whole city suffers. Everybody's down, everybody's sad. When they're winning, when they're 3-0, everybody's dancing in the streets. And that's what I loved about football, because it involved the whole community. Everybody was happy or sad, and you found out in 3 hours what it was going to be. That doesn't happen in real life.
And Bennett, you said that was one more. Did you have another one? You can go to another one if you have it.
Yeah, Jerry, we have one more question.
How do you feel to be one to get drafted in the NFL?
Say it louder.
How does it feel to be one of the few to get drafted in the NFL?
Well, I felt privileged and really honored, because I knew a lot of guys that when I grew up or when I went to Michigan State and played at Michigan State and other colleges, they were just as good as most of the guys I played with in the NFL, but they didn't get the opportunity for whatever reason. And if you don't believe that's true, just look at Fred Jackson. Fred Jackson, who's playing running back for you guys for the Bills, and Kilpatrick, both of them were cut, or both of them were let go. Fred Jackson, I saw him play 3 years ago. I said, that is one of the best football players I've seen in a long time. And he played at Coe College, C-O-E, and he didn't even play in the NFL. He played in arena ball for 2 or 3 years before anybody found him. And then Fitzpatrick, the Cincinnati Bengals let him go, and he went to Harvard. So, you never know where guys are going to come from. You just have to be in the right place at the right time and get the opportunity. And when that opportunity comes, then you got to perform. But if you want to look at a guy who I think epitomizes football, is a guy like Fred Jackson. They draft Spiller in the first round. He's going to be the big savior. He's a good player, but he's not Fred Jackson. And Spiller's number 1 pick, 5th guy picked, went to Clemson, big-time school, and he's not as good as Fred Jackson is right now. And that's what life teaches you.
And there's something to be said about that, because if those guys, they could have, because Fred Jackson was a big, he's probably been a star all throughout his life at his local school and through college. There's a bit of a humbling process there. And if those guys didn't humble themselves, if they said, forget this, if they're not going to play me, I'm done with this sport, or I want to be done. No, what they did was they kept working hard. Even though they weren't getting the start, even though they were getting cut, they kept working hard. So when that opportunity did come, they were ready to jump on that opportunity. So there's something to be said. Again, it comes back to, as Joe says over and over again, the hard work, the respect, not only for yourself, but for your teammates, and making the, being able to jump in when that opportunity comes up. So it's great story to share with Fitzpatrick and Fred Jackson there.
And it's like school. The smartest person, my wife is a nurse. She's a medical person. She goes, believe me, I do not want the smartest surgeon, or dentist working on me. I want a guy who's a mix between both. He's got a bedside manner, and it's a combination of one thing. If you're just good at one thing in your whole life, you're kind of a dullard. You're kind of a dull person who wants to be around somebody who knows everything there is to know about a computer, but can't tie a shoe or can't communicate with people. That's no fun to be around. So you got to make yourself well-rounded. And balance is I don't know how many people saw The Karate Kid. That's pretty good, because he's teaching you got to have balance in life. You can't be all football or all baseball or all basketball and no schools, no going out with girls or boys or doing whatever. You got to mix it up all together and be a total person.
Okay, thank you, Buffalo. Bennett. Let's go to Corcoran, excuse me. If you got a couple questions, go ahead.
Do you have any regrets in your career? And if you did, how did you learn from it?
Regrets in my career?
Yeah.
When I read about all these concussions and things that are happening to people, put it this way. I love football. I love playing it. I have 5 grandchildren, 5 grandsons. I have 9 grandchildren, 4 granddaughters. I'm very leery to let my grandsons play football or suggest that they play football until they clean this whole thing up with steroids and HGH and concussions and all that. I think the National Football League in college football and high school football, with knowledge comes responsibility. They know that they have to do more to make this a safer game. And my regret was that I didn't speak up more when I was playing. That I speak up a lot now, but when I was playing, I'd be saying the same things right now. And I think money would never buy me off. Because I say what I think. If I'm getting nothing for saying this, that I'm going to still say it. I think we got to be careful how we treat these kids and how we make sports like the end-all, be-all. I think that's a problem with this country, where kids are put on a pedestal, and we were put on a pedestal too. But when you watch it 24/7, all of a sudden they think that's the most important thing in life. And it's probably about, I always said this, take a yardstick. Sports, if you're lucky, is one inch out of the yardstick, because you got a whole 35 inches to go. And it's going to involve more than lining up and playing football or basketball. You're going to have to learn how to communicate with people and learn how to work with people. So that's my biggest regret, that I didn't speak up more when I was playing.
And some might say those things that Joe brings up, the HGH and drugs, and then the concussions and a lot of the injuries. If you start thinking about that and really start thinking about that, those are character issues. Those are character issues at the basis. So those are, that's important to bring up as you look at these things. You think of it just as a concussion, as a physical thing, but those are character issues. I mean, to physically want to, do drugs, not having respect for yourself or for the game, wanting to hit someone hard in the head. Some players do leave with their helmets, unfortunately. Those are at the core, they're character issues. So just keep that in mind as you see those.
The point of all this is, when I really get into this, because I think when you have knowledge, with knowledge comes a responsibility, and with knowledge you have to tell the truth, and that's part of the truthfulness. That's part of this. And if I would just say, hey, I'm in the Hall of Fame, I'm glad I played when I played, I don't give a darn about how these guys are, if they get injured or they don't get injured, the current players. They don't care about us with our pensions. We don't care about them if they get hurt. I'd be a scumball, to tell you the truth. And I'd be ashamed of myself, because that's not how I was raised. If I don't say something, like for the guys who can't speak for themselves, like through this pension stuff and disability, then I'm not much of a human being, because the Hall of Fame is great because it puts you on a different level than the other players, and you also get to be, I would never get invited to this by the Hall of Fame if I weren't in the Hall of Fame. So I couldn't talk to all these students that I'm talking to right now. Football got me that. Getting in the Hall of Fame got me that. So with that comes knowledge that I've learned over the years, and knowledge comes responsibility. So if I didn't tell you this, then I'm not being responsible, and that's another one of the pillars of 6 pillars. So it all ties in together, and we play a game. Football is a game. Peyton Manning, it's like an addiction. If you don't think it's like an addiction, here's Peyton Manning, who may be injured for life with a bad neck. He still wants to play no matter what, because it's hard to give up. It's like a drug when you play. When I played, I cried the day I left. I mean, I bawled like a baby, because I knew how much I'm going to miss it. And it's not just missing the game, it's missing the locker room. It's missing the camaraderie with your friends, the families, the coaches. Once you quit, that's over. Then you got to go do the real life, what the real life is. And believe me, it's not as much fun if you don't learn a lot of things, a lot of lessons, and you don't practice these, the pillars of your 6 pillars. It makes life a lot more enjoyable.
Go ahead, Corcoran, if you have another one. Are you still there, Corcoran?
Yeah. Our name is Cochran.
Cochran.
Oh,
I didn't know where Corcoran was. Cochran High School. I know where you're at.
I put an R in there. 2 R's in the name.
Our question was, how important do you feel accountability is on and off the field?
Accountability, it's more important off the field than on the field. Believe me. I mean, it's nice. You're only affecting 50 guys when you're on a football team, if you're lucky, that many, or 9 when you're on a baseball. But when you don't have accountability and you're trying to function in society, you're trying to walk around and be friends with your schoolmates and get along with your family, it's the most important thing. Sports is just a vehicle. It's a recreation. That's what you got to understand. And I'm lucky to be able to talk to you guys because I played a sport. But I'm not going to come here and tell you, hey, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. No, it isn't. It's not hard at all. I play a game. And when people say, he works so hard and so long, you can't do both. You can't work hard and long. If you work long, you get tired and you're not going to do as good. If you play hard, you're going to get tired. You just have to do moderate, everything in moderation. Don't go overboard with everything. You become actually, that's one of the most irritating things I see, when people think that their job is the end-all, be-all, nothing else is important, and they're King Tut because they're an expert in this field. Big deal. You spent a lot of time studying. That's about what you did. And I played football. I'm lucky. I'm in the Hall of Fame. I'm lucky I never got hurt. God has smiled on me. And I'm going to do the best I can to make society better, make this a better place, because I played football. So I'm just thankful.
And if you guys hear this, he talks about the different pillars, but that ties into citizenship too. I mean, some of these things that you see Joe doing, that is citizenship. He's trying, as he said, to make the world a better place. So thank you, Cochran. I'm sorry, we got that correct. I scratched a little R out of here, the first R out of here. Let's go to Abilene.
Of all the special moments in your life, which do you recall the most?
I answered this last time. It was starting my first game in the NFL, because at that point I realized I was only 22 years old, and I graduated from college. That was one of my main goals. I got drafted in the NFL. That wasn't a goal. It just happened. I was lucky to get that happen to me. But to actually be starting in the NFL on my first game that I was eligible to start, I started my first game as a rookie. And I wasn't thinking of myself. I was thinking of my mom and dad. I said this in the last thing. My dad was like 43 when he had me, and I got a younger sister, and my mother was 41. And I'm sure that they thought after 9 kids, this little big fat-headed baby boy is never going to play in the National Football League or never going to graduate from college. And guess what? He did both. And he's only 22 years old. It was amazing. If you saw the house we grew up in, I thought it was a castle, but when I go back and look at it, we had 1 bathroom, no lock, no washer, no dryer, no shower, just a tub. And to think that they raised 10 kids like that, plus my grandpa lived with us, who's like in his 80s. Those are tough people. When I go line up against Joe Green and Merlin Olsen, I knew they were tough guys, but they were nowhere near as tough as my mom and dad. Because to raise 10 kids with no money and to live like that and make everybody think you're happy, they were happy. They were happy. They didn't have a lot, but they were happy. And then to see their son play in the National Football League, it meant a lot.
Great question. If you got another one, Abilene, go ahead.
How can we be better leaders in our sport and in real life?
Just look at those 6 pillars. That's all you got to do. And then try to apply them to your life. It's pretty simple. It's not that complicated. Just that's why we're having this thing today. There's 6 pillars to look at, and just go down the list, apply each one to your life, and you'll be a success. I think the biggest thing, what I tell my kids too, don't cheat. Don't copy off somebody. And really, the things I really hate, like in the real world, is vandalism and thieves. I mean, what kind of idiot will go around, look around, nobody's looking, so he'll spray something on a wall, or he'll steal your purse? You got to be a real scumball. And I just look at those people and I think, I don't care how poor you are, I don't care how rich you are, I don't care anything. You have no right to destroy somebody else's property or take it when it isn't yours. And that's a real pet peeve of mine when I see somebody doing something that that cowardly.
Thank you, Abilene. And let's go Aspermont.
What were some struggles you had off the field, and how did you use those struggles to help you build character?
I don't want to sound crazy, but I've never had struggles. I really didn't. I mean, I can't think of one struggle I had. I had 4 older brothers who taught me how to play sports. I went to school. I went to a Catholic school. I walked to school every day with the girl who turned out to be my wife, we're going to be married 40 years. She's way better looking than I deserve. And I played football. I never had a surgery. I've never even been in a hospital other than to be born. So I have no complaints at all. I wish I made more in a pension so I could go enjoy my grandchildren more. But other than that, I'm fine.
And I think that goes back to, you know, some people might look at some of the things that happened in Joe's life and think, wow, that was a struggle. But that goes back to, you know, the whole thing he said about the backbone, wishbone, and funny bone. That's the funny bone part, that, you know, he's going to take things in stride, because I don't know if you guys know this, he didn't share it with last group or this group, or I think we shared this last year, Joe, is when he got inducted in the Hall of Fame, he had $300 in his pocket to his name. So I mean, you know, some people might look at it that he had obstacles and struggles, but to him, it's all in how you look at things. It's all how you look at life.
It's funny.
So.
I want to tell Jerry this, or tell the kids this. At one time, we had 9 kids living in our house. I had 4 of my own, then I adopted 2, and then we raised 3 other boys. Well, some guy scammed us. My wife and I. We lost $243,000. I remember the amount distinctly, and we had that was it. We lost all of our money, and I wasn't going to claim bankruptcy. I said, I'll work my way out of this. So what happened is I worked my way out. In 2003, we never missed a day's work, me or my wife. We had $300 in the bank. That was it. And my college roommate, who I rode to Mexico with, loaned me $5,000 to keep us afloat. And I got inducted in the Hall of Fame. Then my life changed. But my kids, the best part of their life was when we struggled, because it showed them that life isn't a rose garden. And they had a pretty good life. You know, my children, they weren't rich, they weren't poor, but they lived pretty good. But then all of a sudden, when we lost all that money, okay, everything went out the door. We actually sold our house, went and rented a house, did this, did that. I moved to Lynchburg, Virginia, coached 2 years there, coached at Duke. I struggled. That was a struggle, but I don't even look at it as a struggle. I look at it as a life lesson, that my kids appreciate things more than they've ever appreciated. And the kids who are at home, my one son graduated from Duke. He took an early scholarship to Duke. He could have gone anywhere, but Duke offered him as a junior. They said, Dad, you don't have any money. I get hurt in high school. I can go to Duke for free. You got to be kidding. I'm going to Duke. I didn't want him to go to Duke. I thought he could have gone to Michigan, or he got recruited by LSU, Clemson, Wake Forest in baseball. He was a great baseball player, but he said, baseball don't give full scholarships, Dad. I'm going to Duke. And, you know, they always learn to put themselves second behind the family. He knew that I couldn't afford to send him to college unless he took a scholarship, and he didn't want to take a chance on getting hurt his senior year, so he took the scholarship to Duke as a junior. And guess what? He graduated in 3.5 years, was captain, went to Hofstra for grad school, and now he's a firefighter, which is, he's got to be the smartest firefighter in captivity, a Duke grad, but he loves it, and that's what he likes doing. And he's a twin, his twin teaches 7th grade biology at Catholic school here. So it's pretty cool. One of my South Korean kids, one of my kids I adopted, my youngest one, he played on the South Korean national lacrosse team for 3 years. These kids are hard-nosed kids. They're not like, I always tell them, I don't want sissy kids. I never grew up like having everything. I really, in the back of my mind, didn't want my kids to have everything. That's why I moved from Buffalo to Charlotte, so nobody knew that these kids played football, and they weren't going to be treated special because their dad played for the Buffalo Bills. They were just going to be students here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's why we moved here in 1982. That was my whole purpose of moving here. I don't want these kids to be treated any differently than any other student. And it paid off. They've all graduated. They've all done well. They all got good jobs. And more important than anything, they all got a sense of humor. And I got to say this, my kids, I never text, I never emailed until this last January. My kids bought me an iPhone. And they said, oh man, you're done. Because I used to run my email. I could get the emails, and I'd run them over to my daughter's house. Hey, answer this email. Do this, do that. They said, we're finished with you. You talk a good game. You learn how to do this, or we're not doing it for you anymore. So in about 3 weeks, I learned how to text, email, and you name it on the cell phone. And that is like discovering electricity to me, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And now I'm so thankful. My kids taught me a lesson. By enabling me to run to their house and do emails, I was becoming a functional illiterate. Because if you don't do this stuff and the scoping and I guess all this is, I don't know what this is called, this technology where I can talk to you, I'd be a loser. So I had to learn. So that's what football taught me too. Learn new tricks or you're going to be left in the dust, old man. That's what they teach you. And that's what my kids taught me.
Yeah, Joe, I have to say, when you were in for the golf outing a month ago, when you were looking for a charger for your iPhone, I said, Joe's got an iPhone? What's going on here?
You're right. I didn't know what it was, an iPhone.
Go ahead.
I still owe you I owe you some money for that charger, but anyhow.
Ask Mom if you got another question.
How did playing professional football inspire you?
Inspired me because it showed me I could do things that I never thought I could do. Like just what I said with the iPhone. Football did teach me that. You can accomplish things that you never imagined in your life, and you learn that through sports. I believe that. That's what you learn through sports. Boy, you can be pretty good if you get a group of people, start working together, and you believe in one goal. Then all of a sudden things happen. And that's what football taught me, more than anything. It taught me that if a group of people get together and decide to do one thing and everything falls in line, like you still have to have luck and opportunity. When those two come together, man, you do magic.
And I think we've got time to go through one more. Let's see, about 4 minutes left, I think. Let's go one more from each group, unless you don't have one. Bennett, were you guys? I thought you said that was your last question, but if you have another one, go ahead.
No, I think we're all set, Jerry. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Glad you guys got connected. And let's go back to our friends at Abilene. I don't think they got the food out yet. Let's see here.
Abilene here.
You got another question?
Last question. Yeah, here we go. We've got one from our junior ROTC program. He has to come up to our mic, though. Hold on.
ROTC.
Okay. What was it that kept you going year after year during your career, outside of the money?
Well, the money didn't keep me going, I'll tell you that. Just to play. I mean, just to play, to say you do something that nobody else could do. Plus, it was fun. I mean, what kept me going was fun. It was like you never had to grow up. You never had to, in the real world. I remember some reporter came up to me and said, boy, there's a lot of pressure on you this game. I go, pressure? You joking? I said, we're playing a game. I said, pressure's on policemen, firemen, teachers, real jobs, parents. It was fun. There was no pressure. I loved it.
Thank you, Abilene. And let's go to the last question of the program in Texas, Aspermont. Make it a good one.
Ours have been answered.
Okay, well, good. Well, Abilene, did you have one more that you want to close the program with?
Abeline's got one more.
Go ahead. We'll let Abilene, the tailgaters, go ahead. Last question of the program.
Have you met any NFL players who made a difference in your life?
Yeah, a lot of them. There's some guys who are real inspiration. A guy named Melvin Buffet, he's down in Texas. He's from Houston. We got in the same class. He played 16 years. And to be very honest with you, when I played against the guy, I go, man, this guy's a militant, big old afro, and just never said a word. And he kind of thought the same thing about me, except I was a big old white guy who, never talked, never did anything. Now we're the best friends because we got in the same class in 2003, got to know each other. Our wives got to know each other. And like all of football, you come from all different parts of the country, all different thoughts. And once you get to know each other and you hit it off, you become friends for a lifetime. And that's what football is all about. And all sports, you get lifetime friends.
And Joe, just to close the program, great questions, by the way, all the schools that participated here today. But is there any closing remarks, anything? I know you're a person of quotes and words of advice and things like that have been passed on by family members. Are there any last words of advice or anything we didn't touch on that you'd like to share with these students today about character?
The best thing I can say is just respect. Respect your teachers, respect yourself first, and then good things will happen. And have fun. Life isn't so sorry. I hate how the media makes everything, the world's coming to an end all the time. It's a great place. When there's a disaster, people gather up and help people more than any country in the world. And this is a good place. And you're in good schools, and technology is helping us make it a smaller world, and it's all for the good.
Well, Joe, on behalf of the Hall of Fame and all of our staff here and myself, I would just like to personally say thank you for taking time out of your busy life and busy day, and safe travels to Buffalo to you. So I want to say thank you for being here today.
Okay, I thank the Hall. They treat you guys great. It's a privilege to belong to the Hall of Fame.
And I want to again thank Cisco and thank Charlotte Mecklenburg and ETech for making this possible. But most importantly, would like to thank the students for making this possible. But if you guys could unmute your mics for a minute and join me giving a round of applause and saying thank you to Hall of Famer Joe DeLamielleure. And teachers, I'll be following up with you here shortly on some of the stuff, but I encourage you guys, we'll be offering these throughout the year. Next one's coming up next week, actually, with Jack Youngblood, and more in the future with our Hall of Famers. So it's a great opportunity to talk with our Hall of Famers throughout the year. So just want to say thank you for your participation, and this concludes our program.